This STEAM lesson was developed for second grade students to explore the difference between standard units of measurement and non-standard units of measurement. This lesson incorporates the book How Big is a Foot, written by Rolf Myler.
Once upon a time, there lived a king and his wife, the queen. They were a happy couple, for they had everything in the world. However, when the queen's birthday came near, the king had a problem. What could be given to someone who had everything? The king thought, and he thought, and he thought, until suddenly he had an idea. He would give the queen a bed. The queen did not have a bed because at the time, beds had not been invented. So even someone who had everything did not have a bed. The king called his prime minister and asked him to please have a bed made. The prime minister called the chief carpenter and asked him to please have a bed made. The chief carpenter called the apprentice and told him to make a bed. "How big is a bed?" asked the apprentice, who didn't know because at the time, no one had ever seen a bed. "How big is a bed?" the carpenter asked the prime minister. "A good question," said the prime minister. And he asked the king, "How big is a bed?" The king thought, and he thought, and he thought, until suddenly he had an idea. The bed must be big enough to fit the queen.
At this point, he determines to use his own foot. The lesson integrates math, technology, and art through reading and writing. Our video shows how students must problem solve through collaboration to engineer the queen's bed. The student groups work in isolation with only the feet they are handed in closed envelopes and the butcher paper. Rhonda?
So each group of students are strategically placed so that they can't see each other, and a common mistake that we typically see is they will start forming a line along the edges of the paper, and they'll run out of room before they can complete the bed. And then another mistake that's often made is that they will place the feet touching on part of it, and then the others there will be spaces, which obviously the measurement's going to be wrong, and so they'll have it crooked and they're still running out of feet before they can complete the bed. Then we have, after they've done some problem solving, they begin to get the idea and make sure that the feet are touching, but there's still a little problem going down the outside edges of the butcher paper because they are still running out of feet. And eventually, after a lot of working together, they get the idea that they need to have all the feet touched. They need to be the same number of feet on each side, and tops and bottoms, and then they have to scoot it in. They can't put it around the edges. So with all of that being said, eventually they need to come to the conclusion that by using standard units of measurement, all the bed will be the same each and every time that they try to create one. And they also try to put the princess queen in their bed.